Hello, I'm guessing if you're here, you're kind of looking to buy a boat or figure out what your budget is going to be for buying a boat here and kind of being able to track that for the time being. My name is Tad Griffith. I do some data analytics and analysis, and I was in the market for a boat recently. So I started trying to figure out how to understand what the market was for boats. And that actually started out looking a lot like, let me see if I can show you. Uh, Goodness. It looked a lot like this. So this is every boat on the market on the 8th of June, 2022. And this is a lot of data to kind of parse through. And if you can't tell, I broke everything down by color for each manufacturer that had four or more boats and kind of went around that information and then took a look at it. So what I started off was looking at lagoons because it's just they've got a lot of data points, a lot of information. You can kind of get, hey, this is what the average price for a lagoon is this linear line right here. So from that information, you can see that it would be obvious, kind of like anything in the middle here should be a middle of the road boat. Anything that's high here should be a really new boat or a lot newer than the rest, or it should have some ocean going equipment. So I would expect water makers, a lot more for each one of these circles up here as a boat. You want to see that data. You want to see that come through in the price. So you'd want to know, hey, does this have a watermark? Hey, does this have more than 1500 watts solar? Does this have the ability to run air conditioning off of solar? Does it have the new alternators on the engines as opposed to a gen set? And does it have the electrical configuration to handle that? How are the inverters? The inverters should be new and really good on these. So that's kind of like the whole direction that we went. And realistically, that might not be viable on a 42-foot lagoon. But as you start going up in size, there should be big price differences that you can see here. And this could just be year, but you could really have a boat that is completely comparable up here to this boat down here. And this boat down here is much more ready and safe to go across an ocean. It's just a few years older. So you can, if you want to take a look and see how the average price decreases or increases depending on year, we would expect it to increase. So this line should shift up as we start taking away the older boats and just gradually starts to do that. Okay. And that is how you can go through and kind of figure out what your average price is and see if you're trying to price your boat. I think this would be very helpful to understand kind of where your broker's coming from, why they're thinking this. Now, there might be geographical considerations. I think the boat market, especially for catamarans, is so hot right now. And, watching a bunch of videos, Wiley Sharp, I think, is really good at pointing this out, that the market's so hot that it doesn't really matter where the boat is. I just chose North America, for instance. And that's where all these boats are from, are North America catamarans. So that includes the Caribbean, that includes Central America. So you will see, Puerto Rico, Panama, et cetera on here. So, but to give you all of that information, you can know right now, hey, 1990 through present, there are no boats in the 0 to 100,000. There's no boats in the 1.3 to 1.5 range. There is one boat in over 1.5 right here, and you can see on the graph. That's this guy right here, 56 footer for 1,693, 288. So my guess is you could jump on Yacht World, where I got this data from, and get the specifics for each one of those boats, and then start talking to their brokers and things like that. So that's kind of what I created this for. So this is Lagoon, and then I'm going to compare Lagoon to Fountaine Pajot. And you can see Fountaine Pajot does, quite well here. They're pretty much, tied, and they kind of invert a little bit with their size down here. You got these three data points that are drawing this down a little bit. I think realistically what we're looking for is a little bit of a higher boat price, but it just kind of depends on the availability of the data points. So really, Lagoon is pretty good for having a lot of data points, not as many for any of the other brands. Fountaine Pajot, very good, I think, overall. And if we disregarded all the 55 foot and above, this data line would be parallel and slightly above. So if you're looking, I think a lot of people are looking in the 40 to 50 range lengthwise, and then the 50 and above range. So that's kind of what this is for. Just know that that data line would be a lot more parallel and slightly above. And these are just some older boats down here that are dragging the data down based on availability and market. Alrighty, then we can look at Leopard, and Leopard very, very similarly tiered as far as the Lagoon boats are concerned. So very, very comparable. It just depends on the years that you're going to be working with. So as we start going down here and looking at more recent years, this stays very much in line. And Lagoon actually, as you go a little bit older, starts stepping up here and giving a little bit more of a pull away. So that's nice to be able to look at. But then once you get to 2015, these guys are on the same trajectory again. So it's just the availability of this monstrous availability between 2000 and 2015. So 2010 and 2015, sorry, correction there. So let's highlight everything again, year-wise, and look at Nautitech and compare just Nautitech with Lagoon. And you can see there's a cluster of boats right here, and not very much, but the price, if you were looking at one of these boats and you just happen to find that, hey, this boat had everything I needed from watermaker and everything to possibly go across the Pacific, and then this one was the same, but it was a couple years older, but would allow your kids to have an extra cabin, that could be a huge, huge difference. I mean, all of these things. So you might actually find yourself saying, okay, well, I could step up to a 55. I've got 3, 4 kids. This would make it a lot easier for our family in the 55 foot range. And so it's just about finding that out and seeing, hey, my budget is relatively similar to these guys and get a lot more boat. But then you're looking at, hey, how much engine wear? How many things do I have to surrender in order to get this boat? And is this too much of a compromise? Will this take too much time to get ready to start going sailing? Okay, especially if you're limited, like more of a sabbatical kind of sailor. You got other here. So this is every boat that is in the market that is not one of the major brands that is listed here. All these major brands, as I call them, are just brands that had 4 or more used boats available. Okay, so it doesn't mean that they're more reputable just because they're on this list or just because I had to consider all of these to be the others. But your other price, you can see very similar trajectory, but it just kind of depends on the snapshot and the time of the snapshot. I think it's interesting. These two other 55 footer, all within just a few $1,000s in the 1.5 range. So it's just fascinating to see how these get grouped together. Let's go to Outremer, which a lot of people really love. You got a lot of cheap availability here in the 47 foot range. So this would be a boat that I think a lot of people might be intrigued by. And then in the $500,000 range, you've got a 55 footer. So I think that's curious. Well, these would get out of my budget range, but if you're looking for something that's ready to go, I think these are going to be a lot newer. Outremer, ever since Le Vagabond, has really gotten snatched up in the used market, which really helps to keep their values up, has been kind of my observation. All right, let's look at Privilege. Several boats in the 45 to 48 foot range here, 45 and 48 foot range, I guess. One in the 50, and then you got a 61 footer over here for 1.4 million. So I think these are very intriguing. Larger families, I think, definitely could benefit from the 50 plus range. I think this is like you're taking extended family if you're going to 60 foot. But nonetheless, if you're looking for boat options, Privilege, really beautiful boats, really well made. Typically, I think this is Sailing Zatara that has a Privilege. So if you wanted to follow a YouTube channel about that, that'd be the one that you'd look at. Voyage yachts. I don't know a heck of a lot about Voyage yachts. They are way under market compared to Lagoons, though. That'd be my only concern thing. So I don't know if these are just coastal boats, if they're exclusively in charter and they get beat up. But I'd be curious to learn a little bit more about that. So that's kind of a breakdown of each of these different boats. And what it comes down to is this data, when it looks like that, it isn't really helpful to anybody, I don't think, but is this data helpful to you? And if it is, do me a favor, just give me a thumbs up so we can kind of count on that and figure out whether this is good. And then also in the comments, if you could add the name of somebody on YouTube that you think would want to carry this on. I've kind of built this spreadsheet. It's copy pastable, so there's some hidden tabs down here with all the data, and it's step by step. Hey, copy this way, paste this way, and it really does work just simply step by step. So if that's something that you think would work, I know Wiley Sharp was one that was recommended to me. I'm kind of curious if there's anybody else out there on YouTube that you think would be a really good person to kind of run with this data in the future. Yeah, so thank you for your time. Good luck with your boat buying process. I hope it goes smoothly or as smoothly as possible. And I hope that this data eventually can be used to kind of give you a good idea of the value of a boat. If you'd like a copy of this spreadsheet, knowing that the data is already old, it's a day old now, and it's just going to get more and more old, let me know. I think you can just message me directly or comment and just put something in the comments that you'd like to get in touch with me, and we'll kind of go from there. Thanks for your time. Bye.